Alright guys, welcome to the live. I have a new mic set up tonight, so please do give me some feedback. Let me know if there is feedback, all that kind of stuff when it comes to the mic. So tonight I'm not going to do an official comic book reading. I'm just going to let you guys in on this custom character, which I sometimes go by Cortana, but I would say that this isn't an officially Cortana, because Cortana looks a little bit different. This is essentially the suit, but I wanted to use this as an opportunity to do little story times about Atlantis. So welcome to the live. Let me just make sure. I'm just going to monitor to make sure that I'm coming through okay. So let's see. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I don't know if test. Is anything coming through? Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Oh yeah, there we go. Now you can hear me a little bit better. All right, I need to be a little bit closer to the mic. That's what I've realized. Okay, here we go. Because I guess it wasn't coming through before. Okay, so we are going to begin now that I can hear myself. The direction of this mic, I think it's a matter of you have to speak directly into it or you won't hear it properly. So let's bring this up a little bit and then I will begin. Okay, hi Red Heron, welcome to the live, you guys. So new mic setup, I have it with XLR right now, so it should change a bit of it. Also going forward, I will have music overlaid like an official radio show. So welcome to the live, guys. We're going to do some official Atlantis story time stuff. I have a little book about it as well. Let me just... Hi, Kamikaze Shot. Welcome. Okay, so to get you guys in on this particular cosplay, and do let me know if you can't hear me, because I was realizing before when I was talking, I'm no one could hear me. So please do drop a little love if you can. Testing. Yeah, okay, you guys can hear me. Just did a little check. Okay, so going back to this live stream. So this cosplay that I'm in right now, it's kind of like Cortana. So if you've played the video game Halo, right, with Master Chief, Cortana is your friendly AI companion, which is built on Forerunner technology. Now, if you go back to video game lore and how when the Master Chief, well, I mean, it's the Master Chief collection now, but back then when Halo was first coming out, I was in high school and going into university. So I have a lot of memories playing video games like Halo, like LAN parties, attaching Xboxes together, and video games being a big part of that, right? Playing collaboratively. And so when I'm writing my own book, so this is a book that I wrote. Is this the right way? Battle for Mount Olympus. You can get that on Amazon. So I have a part 2 to this, which takes place in a futuristic synthwave cyberpunk kind of universe, which is parallel to ours. And in that, I have created I'll call her an AI, but I call her Kara. So Kara, which stands for Kindred Anima Replicant Application. So that's in my universe, right, which is in this book. And I took inspiration from Cortana in Halo. So Cortana in Halo, if you guys aren't familiar, I've read some of the books that support the lore. She's basically attached to the suit. So if you go back to the Spartans, right, and the Spartan program in the Halo universe, if you're not familiar, that's okay. It still goes into this whole archetype of, warriors, right, the warrior class, and those who are called to have this elite training, right? And the biggest part of Halo is to be able to have a body that can withstand wearing the suit, right? So in Halo, Cortana is actually, I guess, not really an AI. She's kind of like a clone of Dr. Halsey's, oh my gosh, her cognition. It's like her brain. They like cloned her brain, and like that's how they basically made Cortana. But they also used Forerunner technology. And in the Halo universe, the way they kind of have it is that way back in the ancient galactic past, right, human beings were actually multi-galactic, right? Hey, Mari Landry, welcome. I'm Kara Cortana. And I've basically kind of taken inspiration from other characters in terms of this being a custom character, right? So you guys have heard me also refer to this as being like the cosmic game of life, right? So I like to look at it as if like, let's pretend, before you were born, you were a soul, right? And you came down to this particular timeline, this Earth school, in order to enact something very specific. Now, as soon as you enter the game, though, however, you end up with amnesia. You don't even remember, you don't remember this as a game, you don't remember like who you are, you don't remember. So it's all a process of source node. Yeah, you guys are talking my language. So we're going to get into Atlantis in just a second. I'm going to read some excerpts from this book because it does a nice job of consolidating a lot of the Atlantean myths. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Atlantis specifically, but it's been known, the creators of Halo have said that they borrowed a lot of inspiration from Atlantis when it comes to the Forerunner stuff. So if you ever play Halo and you're in like those levels where it's like really high tech looking, or like you're on the Halo ring, all of that kind of stuff, they took inspiration from like ancient future tech, and this idea of Atlantis, right? So, let me make sure. Hello, everybody. Phantom of the Art. What a fabulous name. Welcome. This is my new mic setup. So it took me a little while to get ready because it's finally going to be like, official microphone. I am going to read you guys from this book. This is my book, which I wrote, right? So this character that I'm playing right now is essentially my own custom character, which borrows a lot from Halo, right? And Halo, and any creation that you make in terms of art, it's always going to be inspired by other sources, right? Like it's why, even in DC Universe, you have Wonder Woman, and that really borrows a lot from like the Amazons and Greco-Roman mythology, right? So it's not like we have this whole thing with copyright right now, right? And I agree, like people should get credit for the work that they do and the ideas that they have. But sometimes the copyright and taking credit for things gets in the way of like the creative process and us being truly collaborative when it comes to our ideas. So I'm going to spend this time with you guys to share some stories about Atlantis. Oh yes, Cortana, yes. And mainly, as I said, because the Forerunners in the Halo universe, they're said to be Atlantean in nature, or like the tech that they have is very based on that. So if you guys are not familiar with the lore, let me get into some of the lore of Halo itself, because I always like dance around it. And a lot of video games carry within them stories, right? And as you go through the levels, as you beat the different bosses, as you progress, you get more and more of the story. So different people are motivated by different things when they play video games, right? I love video games because it's a very immersive way to know a story, to come to know that, right? So a lot of people will not play Halo, and so you'll never know the story of Halo, right? Because what is Halo? So the Halo in the Halo universe is basically a weapon, right? It's a big Halo ring, and just to do like Cole's Notes version of like the Halo trilogy, what ends up happening is that the year is 2552, 2552, so like really in the future, right? And Earth has become multi-galactic again, so she's got multiple colonies, right, on Reach, different places, right? So human beings have gone beyond Earth and are now settling in different places. Earth's still home though, okay? So on what ends up happening is that we end up dealing with an alien invasion known as the Covenant. And the Covenant is a group of different aliens that have all like come together under a covenant to, like, they basically worship the forerunners like they're gods, right? It's like no different if we were to go like to an archaeological site, like dig up something and be like, aha, we found this like master root race and let's worship them. So so what ends up happening is the Covenant, these alien guys, they end up finding like the halo rings and the forerunner tech, but they don't really know what it's for, right? So they end up being like, okay, these false prophets, like prophet of truth and all that kind of stuff, they look really gross. My sister calls them like, it's as if they took a bunch of like genitalia and like smushed it all together. But these prophets or false prophets, they have ascribed meaning to the halo rings and all that kind of stuff. They basically like, oh, these are gods and we need to activate the halo ring. Oh, Angel, I'm trying to put the crown. Yay. Thank you for that. How sweet. That matches the whole Atlantean thing. Okay. So where was I with this? Yeah. So the Covenant starts to invade Reach. So me and my hubby have started to play Reach again from the beginning because Halo Reach reminds me a lot of like Rogue One in Star Wars, right? You know how it's going to end, right? You know that planet is doomed, but you still hope anyways when you play, like, maybe this time it won't end that way, but it needs to end in tragedy because that's how you get the plans off. And Cortana was born on Reach, and the whole point of the game is to get Cortana and that tech off of Reach, and so that she can be with Chief, right? And the two of them can work together to save the universe. So the Covenant, though, however, when they start invading and stuff, it first becomes this Covenant versus human beings, alien sci-fi war thing, right? But then it becomes so much more nefarious, right? There's the flood, which is basically like this zombie virus that ends up happening, and that's what the halo rings were for. They were there to basically, like, it was like a final answer, right? When they couldn't deal with the flood taking over all organic life, the halo rings are there to like exterminate everything and start from scratch. And Zono asks, hi you guys. Jimmy, hello. I'm technically a custom character from my own book. But she's very much inspired by Cortana, your blue fairy in your video game of life. So if we talk about things from more archetypal perspective, if you're going through your hero's journey, usually you're going to have some sort of magical item or some sort of other assistance to help you on your journey, right? So in this case, Cortana, coming from Forerunner Tech, she's there to help you with like your waypoints. Chief, this is the way to go. You need to go like so. They work together, right? And as I said, she's more than just an AI construct because she's technically a clone of Halsey's brain, right? And so that being said, she's got all of like the personality traits of Dr. Halsey. And there's some stuff there too, right? Because when they do the Spartan program, kind of nefarious, right? They go to different planets and they basically steal children, right? They steal children who have potential and put them into like the Spartan program. And what they do is they end up having these flesh clones, like a clone that looks just like whoever they're stealing, and they put them in place, and that flesh clone eventually like dies. So there's some cool animes that deal with this, with Halo, like the whole like extended story and lore that has to do with it. And I love it, right? Because there's such cool stuff in the concept of the fact that human beings in the ancient past were in a huge war against the Forerunners, which they lost. And as a result of them losing, the Forerunners de-evolved human beings and reseeded them on Earth, right? And so we started being cavemen again, and we totally forgot about the fact that we had this really high-tech galactic past because of that war. So I love that concept, right? Because it brings up a what if of like, we don't really know what happened in the past, right? How old is our world, our universe, right? So it's kind of I am really familiar with the lore, and I've played the Halo trilogy multiple times. My favorite game is actually Halo Reach, just because in that game, Master Chief is kind of like a reclaimer. He's like a lone wolf, right? On his own doing all of this. In Halo Reach, you have a whole team of Spartans together, right? And so you kind of get a sense of like what it was like, in a golden age of it, where like things are good, right? Like, in a team where like you're just starting on the journey and things, haven't had losses yet, hadn't had to deal with a lot of setbacks just yet. So that's that in terms of like Halo, the lore, who I am, in terms of waypoints in the video game of life. I welcome you guys to look in your own life for people who are, sometimes they don't even mean to be those who help give you waypoints, right? Point you in the right direction, right? Essentially, like open the doors, like R2-D2. These different things that help you as you progress in your mission, your soul mission, right? So I'm going to read a little bit from Atlantis. Atlantis, for me personally, I've always been a really big dreamer. So I have had dreams about Atlantis. And if we look at DC and even Marvel, both of those two universes do deal with Atlantis, right? Zatanna, her mother, is supposed to be Homo Magi from ancient Atlantis, right? Aquaman, king of Atlantis. I find it interesting, too, that Aquaman's name is Arthur, right? So when he becomes king of Atlantis, he's King Arthur, too. So that's fun. There's something there. So all those different... I wasn't able to get to the comic book store just yet. So tomorrow we will do a little update on... Tomorrow's also today, Valentine's Day. So it'll be a good day to do any kind of like romantic readings, that kind of stuff. Oh, okay. So let's read a little bit from this book. This is written by Jeffrey Ash, and I think he does a great job of pulling together different myths. And so I'm just going to read you from it, just in case you're not familiar with the Atlantis myth. And we can talk a little bit about Plato and Socrates. I know that doesn't sound interesting, but I promise I can try to make it sound a little interesting. And then we'll go back to comic books tomorrow, okay? So we've got Atlantis. Atlantis, the vanished land between Europe and America, is the noblest setting ever conceived for a drama that has haunted imaginations through the centuries. The drama, the tragedy of a primordial glory that was lost. Just like what I was talking about with human beings, right? Like where you had an ancient past of high technology and then like some sort of cataclysm happens and then we forget like all the progress we've made, right? So it takes many forms and it interweaves two perennial myths or daydreams, the Golden Age and ancient wisdom. Classical literature is the best known context for these. Greek poets such as Hesiod of the 8th century BC speak of the golden race that flourished before the rise of the present gods. The golden people lived free from care, feeding on the bounty of nature, without disease or, deception, all those like lower vibration things. They had no government, and therefore there was no misrule. Astrea, the goddess of justice, dwelt among them. Then Zeus, Jupiter in Roman parlance, seized power and the golden world ended. A lesser humanity was taught the arts of life by Prometheus, one of the Titans or elder deities, and Zeus punished him for it. So the golden people lived free from care, feeding on the bounty of nature without disease, and they had no government and therefore no misrule. Hinduism has its golden age in what is known as the Krita Yuga, an age long ago. All creatures were virtuous and wise, fulfilling the inbuilt law of their nature. The Krita Yuga gave way to a vertex why did I say vertex? To a series of inferior yugas. So yuga just means age, right? So if you hear like Kali Yuga, it's a specific age. Earthly enlightenment began with the 7 rishis, semi-divine seers or sages, described as mysterious beings connected with the origin of humanity and knowledge. In the Bhagavad Gita, oh my gosh, I'm mispronouncing that, please don't hate me for it. Krishna, who is the supreme God incarnate, recalls how he created the rishis and himself taught an eternal yoga. But through long lapses of time, it was forgotten, and ancient wisdom in general decayed with the decline of the world. Interesting. Sweet. It's talking about how there's like a past, a golden age that we come from, right? I want to get into, let's see here, more about, so like the different pyramids that exist that mirror each other in different ancient civilizations, which like hearken or call back to our potential ancient past, right? Xavier, hi, welcome. I am Cortana, and I'm reading some stories about Atlantis, right? And actually, let me tell you the myth of Atlantis off the top of my head before we continue on in the book. But from what I know of Atlantis is that Plato spoke of it. Now let's go back a bit to Plato and Socrates. Socrates has already passed by the time Plato is teaching, right? So Plato was basically, I think, a student of Socrates. And so he had like imagined dialogues between Socrates in order to talk about different philosophical subjects. That, you could say, like, if you think about dialogues, right, our imagined conversations between different aspects, that's how, we can come to a deeper understanding of things outside of our own, like, heads, right? So Atlantis, from what my understanding of Atlantis is that it was basically an island continent, right, that exists between, like, North America and Europe, right? And this continent was supposed to be filled with like demigod beings, or this concept of humanity having a past where gods walked among us, right? Or this idea of being much more in a benevolent state of being with the earth, right? A golden age, all that glorious stuff. So Atlantis existed here, and if we think about Atlantis, we think about Atlas who shoulders the world on his shoulders, right? And if you know anything about the Hercules myths, right, and his labors, one of them is that he goes to Atlas, right, and he takes the world for a bit, and Atlas tries to I'm going to not give it back, right? Hey, Danny Winnie Man, thank you for that. So Atlantis was supposed to be a land of high technology, demigod kings, all that kind of stuff. Now, this idea of a cataclysm happening, right, as a result to, let's say, moral decay is a common one, right? So the idea is that as a result of, I'm going to say my personal opinion is that back then we had magic rules or try to cheat, right? You will end up with a cost, right? Constantine talks about this. Magic has a cost. You don't get something from nothing. So an offering of something needs to happen for something else. And if you think you can get away with it, you can't. So I feel like there was like ancient dark magicians in Atlantis that you usurped the balance of things and you ended up with natural disasters, which swallowed Atlantis, and Atlantis went into the sea. The other theory is that Atlantis as a nation actually attacked Athens. And Athens is affiliated with like Athena, goddess of wisdom. And so I think the gods did not like this concept of like Atlantis coming in and trying to like take over Athens. And as punishment, they, there you go. Atlantis is into the sea again. So those are the different stories between it. A main story my other tripod fell. The main moral outcome that comes of it is basically the idea of hubris, right? The concept of like, you have high tech, all this kind of stuff. Even Krypton in, Superman's origins, the planet of Krypton is very Atlantean in nature, right? The high technology, the fact that they don't even have natural birth anymore. They actually do like just like genetic engineering to like have babies and stuff. Supernatural effects are already happening. Oh yes, let me see. Oh my gosh, it is like supernatural effects already happening, right? So spooky action at a distance. So that is that concept of us as humanity having a memory or having a forgotten like amnesia of how high tech, high magic, how human beings used to relate to nature and each other and the gods, whatever we mean by that. It's such a very loaded term when we talk about that, right? Because there's also like the divine within you, the concept of remembering who you really are, right? That, you're just playing this role, but you exist also outside of the game as well, right? So if we think of video games as a nice little metaphor or extended allegory, you could say like when we're playing the game, I become Master Chief, right? And I'm playing the game, but then I can pause and I can go get a snack, right? But there's also other Master Chiefs with their own HUDs and stuff. And sometimes when we work collaboratively, we're both in each other's games, but it's still my game. Am I Gnostic? I find it hard for me to say that I'm anything. I would like to say that I believe in all of it. The power of the imagination, the power of all the stuff that we don't really know. Like, I'm okay with not knowing certain things, because that's like there's a lot of movies that deal with this, right? Where like the lighthouse or the concept of like trying to find out something, right? The answer, right? Oh, thank you for that, Angel. I think there is space for us just to not know, right? Like this idea of like, I don't know why I fell in love, right? But I did, right? I don't need to have it explained or like broken down or dissected, right? And you don't need to have that in order to love something either. So I think that is something where like science and magic can start to intermingle again. It's really not supposed to be a fight between those two practices, in my opinion. They do inform each other far more, right? Because what seems like magic maybe years ago was like, you know what I mean? Like it seems like magic, but we're like, oh, it's really because of this electrical circuit and how we're able to actually get power from like the sun, or like hydro, or all these different things, Wi-Fi, the internet, all of that stuff, right? If you go back 30 years, all of the stuff we're able to do right now, including this right now, this live stream, would have just been considered like, whoa, like really? And if we think about like how we are influencing the world around us, right? And how there's like this interplay between us projecting out and then also taking information in. And it's more of like a feedback loop with each other, right? You are the universe informing itself of itself, right? No, there's no one going to be like you. There's no one before you that was like you, and there's going to be no one like you after. So you remembering who you are based on like your specific makeup is really like, I think, the soul mission. And once you do that, it becomes very clear like who you're meant to like do certain things with, right? Look at it. I don't like to call it anything. I like to say that I'm just like a student of life, of experience, of figuring out what it means to just experience love and hope and all the things that like I read about in stories. I'm like, you know what? I would love to go on that adventure too. Have a discovery of like things I didn't even know that I would love, people I haven't met yet, right? So, yeah. So I wasn't going to stay on too late tonight because I really wanted to do this more as like a test for like my new sound setup. So today is Valentine's Day, and I like to think of it as like, if you think of Saint Valentine, Cupid, it's really more of like Eros Day and Love Day. And Eros is supposed to be known. My sound is great. Thank you. Thank you. Took a while to get it. Sound check, sound check. And you guys, that goes to show like with even your own life, right? What is backstage, right? And what deserves to be front stage. And then also, in your own life, whatever creative projects you're working on, whatever you're doing, like when is it good enough to show the world, right? And when does it need, like, I look at it as, let's say you had a sword, right? Made of like the most perfect material, right? That sword still needs to be smithed, right? Put into the fire, banged around a bit, and shaped into the exact weapon that is made for you, right? I can't pronounce your name, but thank you for the roses. It's Chaloko. Thank you. So I look at it like that, right? Even if you have all the talent in the world, you still need to practice, right? And falling in love with that work is a beautiful thing, because then all of that stuff that's in secret, eventually when it pops through the dirt, it's going to be the most beautiful flower. So just for us to have like patience with ourselves, take the time to remember, right? Take the time to remember, like, why am I even doing this, right? Sometimes we get caught up in like jobs we don't even like, or friendships we don't even want, or relationships that have like gone stale, and we don't think back and like remember, like, why am I even doing this? And then that can be a way of you reigniting certain relationships, right? To recapture that spark. Or maybe you just remember who you are and then you've grown past that and it's just changed. So all those kinds of things, that's also like a dialogue you can have with yourself. And when we think of like Cortana being a clone of Halsey, if you play the game, Dr. Halsey's kind of a biatch. Like, I mean, like, and I get why, right? It's like she's a female and like this certain like kind of like atmosphere where like very logical and like there's not a lot of room for, the more empathetic aspects of being female and stuff like that, right? And I think that's why oftentimes in AI and tech, we make them female, right? To add that bit of empathy and compassion to something that can be very logical and very hard edges, right? Because we do need that balance of it, right? She is Onyx. Yeah, that's a great motto there. I'm here to experience stuff and to reduce the amount of suffering. That's what I've been telling myself. Oh my gosh, Real Techie, thank you for liking the live. Okay, before I end this live, tomorrow I think I'll do some card readings with you guys, and maybe some readings from my book, because technically speaking, this character I'm playing right now is a custom character that I made myself for my own book and my own game. And I named her Kara, Kara, to represent kindred, anima, replicant, application. And she's supposed to be a clone of me. Like if I made an AI of myself, imagine what that would look like. And so if we think about Halsey versus Cortana, even though they have a lot of personality type stuff in common, because Cortana was literally made to support Chief, you're always going to have that aspect in her programming, right? So, and we can look at that in ourselves too, like when we fall in love or when we meet someone or like all this kind of stuff, like a lot of things get thrown into the mix where you're like, whoa, logically, I shouldn't like you, or logically I shouldn't like fall in love with you, but I can't help it. It's just the way it goes. So like I just feel like in your own life to like kind of look at those fun little synchronistic waves in how the universe taps you on the shoulder, right? A song that appears on the radio sometimes and you're like, is that for me? that kind of thing. Oh yeah, Overwatch. You know what? I haven't played Overwatch yet, but I do love how all the girls look in that. So I love that. Okay, so final story before I end this live. There is a goddess in Atlantis that they talk about. I don't know if you're familiar with like the root races, you know, like a golden age of humanity, and the further away we got from like that first root race, we lost touch with like our divine essence or nature. So there's a goddess, her name's Astrea. She is a god. She was like the last goddess to leave Earth. So it's like one of those things where like Earth's starting to get a little like, you know, dense and like lame. So the deities and the gods are like, you know what? Time to go up to the moon. Time to go up to the higher realms, and like hopefully humanity remembers some stuff, and maybe one day we can come back again. So Astrea, she's I think her mother and father are like the dawn and dusk, but she's supposed to be the last goddess to have left, and she loves humanity so much. So she's like, I love you guys, but like, oh my gosh, hopefully you guys do better. And there is an ancient prophecy that when the goddess Astrea returns to Earth, it will be the end of human suffering, and the golden age will reappear. Now, funny thing about Astrea, her name, right? In her name, there's Ray, right? And so for me, in high school, all my friends called me Ray, like R-A-E, Ray, Ray of Sunshine, Ray. So I was reading this myth about Astrea. I'm like, oh my gosh, she has Ray in her name. And just that vibe of like, just wanting the end of human suffering, like some people, yeah, Ray. They still call me that in Winnipeg, right? And I've reconnecting with my teenage self through writing my book. Like my name's Ray in the book, right? So this concept of like prophecy and like the return of a golden age, yeah, I think it's happening. But what that's going to look like, what that's going to take with all of us, oh, thank you for that. It's just going to take, I think, Ray, yeah. And it's like Sugar Rachel, right? Because life is hard. This world's very dense. And as I said, it's like we've all just forgotten what it was like when we used to just be more in harmony with the planet. And so my last message to you guys, because I fixed my little mic setup, we're going to read more comic books going forward, all that good stuff, is that just be open to the woo in your life coming up. We have Saturn has just moved into Aries out of Pisces. I know astrologically, I'm not really doing specific content to that, but just to break it down in the cosmos right now, we have the Lord of Time, like Chronos, Saturn. Time is shifting, right? Into this, our relationship with time is going to shift, right? So think of it this way, like when you're at a party and it seems like time goes by so fast, or when you're doing something really boring at work, you're like, oh my gosh, time's going so slow. Our perception of it, right? That we're going to have a little bit more, I don't want to say control, because control is not the right thing, because it's not like we're trying to change time to fit our needs. It's more about being in sync with it a lot more so that we can engage more in the realization that there is enough time to do everything. It's just more about like reorienting ourselves, right? Because you can spend a lot of time in a video game wasting your time walking around in the wrong direction, right? If you don't have a waypoint, or in Halo, like everything looks the same, or you go to one point and then you have to go back to where you came, and then there's a whole bunch of dead guys and you're like, wait a minute, were we here already? Where am I? And so me personally, I've learned, I'm like, something for me to work on is to learn how to read maps. I'm not really great at reading maps. That's why I'm player 2, because I just follow my hubby around the map. But, you know, in our own selves, it's important to realize where we need to work on things, where our strengths are, all that kind of stuff, so that we can just continue to improve and grow and do it from a place of what we want right? And a place that's heart-centric and less of like what the system or whatever we should be doing, right? So that is my last little message, you guys. Thank you for joining me for this live with Atlantean storylines and this idea of like coming back to a golden age and remembering your dreams and all that stuff. So with that, happy Valentine's Day, Eros Day. And remember, it takes true courage for you to be exactly you, right? Because being yourself is really a courageous act. So please do be exactly you because the universe is counting on you. But I have your back. Till next time, guys. Yes, happy Valentine's Day, guys. Till next time. Bye. Oh, yes, I will. I'll let you know tomorrow. We'll see.